to the latest episode of 305 Vox Populi here in the town of Miami Lakes. I'm Mayor Manny Cid, and with us today we have the legend, Jim Hamilton. How you doing, Jim?
Hey, good, Manny. Thank you so much for letting me be here.
We appreciate you coming on. Let me thank some of our sponsors. We're powered by Miami Lakes AutoMall. Thank you to Fred Senra. He gave the seed money to start this podcast. They're located at 16600 Northwest 57th Avenue here in the town of Miami Lakes. Their phone number is 305-455-3510. Jim, what do you think of this mural? Have you ever been in a mayoral office that has a mural inside of it?
Super cool.
Yeah?
Very nice.
So local artist, Grisette Gajano, she is a school counselor during the day. And then at night, she is an artist who does amazing work. And her phone number is 786-353-8608. You can send her a text message. And our food sponsor today was Creation in Bloom Edible Art. Thank you to the owner, Alicia Bloom, for her gourmet lunch. What did you think? I know you had a bite
delicious,
of that. Yeah?
delicious. Very nice.
Did a great job. Local resident who's moving forward. Pandemic was a bit challenging to us, and you see all these different ideas move forward, and this is one of them. So make sure you go out and support Alicia. Her food is phenomenal. You can contact her for orders at phone number 305-343-5783. You can email her at info@creationsinbloom.store or check out her website at www.creationsinbloom.store. Our film production team, Matter Lakes Broadcasting. We know what's cool about this is that it's produced by a local high school. These are the three teachers who move forward this program. They have 90 students as part of the program. I mean, they've gotten to the point where they're beating ESPN, right? Their product is better than ESPN. You watch any Matter Lakes broadcast of all their sports, they got ESPN. I mean, they're probably gonna get hired by ESPN very soon, because you go on there and you have the little ticker on the bottom. You have an announcer. I mean, you got all these things happening. So they're the envy of all the sports schools in Florida right now. So
They're amazing.
yeah, they do a really good job. So Jim,
And they're local.
and they are local. So appreciate you guys. Great job, Jim. To you, longest standing volunteer in our community's history. 50 years since 1972. Right, giving back, moving the ball forward, helping people, helping thousands of kids, not only with sports, but become men and women with strong characters, with that moral clarity that you inject in them. But why do it, and why do it for so long? What is your why that you got involved back in 1972 here at Miami Lakes Optimus Park?
Well, it was basically giving back, because I had such a great boyhood experience in sports. And so when I had the opportunity through the Optimus Club of Miami Lakes, was invited to come coach tackle football back in 1972, I saw it as an opportunity to give back once again to the new community that I had just moved into. So it was as much of a benefit to myself because I enjoyed it as it was for the kids that got the benefit of the training. So it's always been that way. It's always been special. It's kind of a 50-50. I get as much out of it as I think I impart to the kids, because it gives me so much joy to see them improve and have a skill, enjoy the game more. So.
No, that's very true. I remember a couple of years back, I signed up my boys for basketball at the Optimist. And they were out there having a good time. And one Saturday, we get a call. Our coach kind of disappeared on us, right? And Jim, without question, he just jumps in and just starts coaching. He takes over the practice for 2 hours. So I know your love of coaching and your love of helping, I got to see it firsthand. So I appreciate you for that. But I'm sure you got a lot of stories from in the last 50 years at that park, right? The history is unbelievable. You have NBA players.
Yes.
The top GM right now in the NBA,
Right.
Phoenix Suns.
James Jones.
Yep. Played there. Grew up playing there, right?
Right.
A bunch of other NBA players, NFL players, Major League Baseball players. Just a couple weeks ago, I went out to throw the first pitch, and I'm looking into the crowd, and Nick Castellanos is standing there.
Yes.
This guy's an all-star, right? And he grew up playing. He started playing Little League there. So if you could share with us some of those incredible stories, because now we see a lot of them and where they've gotten, literally the top GM in the NBA, an all-star in the major leagues, and so forth and so on. So if you can share with us some of those stories for the last 50 years at Miami Lakes Optimus.
Certainly. In the era of the two that made it in the NBA, James Jones and Stevie Blake, it was amazing because currently, or I should say before COVID, we play basketball indoors. But can you imagine playing outdoors in the summer? Because we played summer basketball because that's...
I played Eric Brandon. Shout out to Eric Brandon. He was my coach. So I
Yes.
played outdoors.
Yes.
I was there.
Yeah, so you went through the same system, but to have NBA players sweating it out outdoors, if you would bring that concept today, most parents would not want to do that. But that's the system that James Jones and Stevie Blake grew up in, playing outdoor basketball. And we played some of those games initially at Miami Lakes Elementary School. They had outdoor courts. I remember Stephen Blake's dad coached his team, and I coached against him. Even though he was a couple years younger, we allowed that. I think he was like 10, and our kids were like 12. And I had the last pick in the draft that year, and we hadn't won a game. And so we had lost a player, so we were due a player. And this young man named Samari Rowe comes out, and since I was the only team that lacked a player, he came on to my team, and we never lost a game, including the NBA games against Stevie Blake. So Samari was 2 years older, and that makes a huge difference, and that's why at that particular time. But Samari was so fast that he would steal the ball, and before our team could get across half court, he was already scoring a layup. But Samari only played one season. His dad was a high school coach. And I went to him. I said, you have far more experience than I do. Would you like to take over the team and I'll be your assistant? He said, absolutely not. I'd like to sit out here in the car, watch the game. Nobody bothers me. I watch Samari play, and that's what I would like to do. And I said, that's perfectly fine. There was really no coaching on my part with Samari. He was so good. He was very friendly, easy to coach, shared the ball. So all the kids enjoyed the experience playing with him, and the same with Stevie Blake and his dad. Back in those eras of basketball, we also played in the winter season. We played in the boys' club, the Northwest Boys and Girls Club. And and just the opposite of my teams that seldom won, Stephen's team always won, and they had a dominant team in Miami-Dade County. So everywhere they would play, whether it was 3-on-3 over in Miami Beach, they always won because he was so skilled, and he made himself skilled because he just trained and trained to the point that he was very successful.
Yeah,
So
a lot of
very
people,
rewarding.
and I think a lot of kids don't understand that, right? They think that you're just born with these types of skills. But Stevie Blake, because I've heard it many times, he was late at night shooting hoops at the Optimus Park with his dad, working on his game. And look where he got to, right? He got recruited by Maryland, a Hall of Fame coach. He won a national championship in Maryland, starting point guard.
Right.
Then goes into the NBA. Then Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, one of the greatest players of all time. Kobe Bryant said, one of my favorite teammates ever
Was
Steve Blake.
Right.
And you see that entire story, but it all started with hard work, playing on outdoor courts.
Yes.
But I think that's one of the lessons that kids don't appreciate today, right? They think that everything's, you just add water and it grows microwavable, right? But I had a guest here a while back that they talked about we live in a microwavable society where they think you just microwave it and it happens. No. The amount of grind, if you could talk about it, that took to get Steve to where he's at, where he went to, I think it's unbelievable.
Oh yeah, the Stevie Blake story is kind of one of a kind, but it was all based on what you just said. It was hard work. I mean, he actually played soccer. He played tackle football. He was very lean, lanky, tall and lanky. Never as a kid, never overly tall, but he just was. If you looked at him, you were wondering, well, you would never see him as an NBA athlete. But because he worked at it, he made himself an NBA athlete. A college star, as you said, as a junior, winning the NCAA tournament was phenomenal. And he continued. The other thing is he continued. With all the success in high school at Miami High, he then went on to the pros and continued to improve. I went up to visit him at Maryland with his dad, and after a practice, they would stay and shoot 50 to 100 jump shots on these automated machines. But just the fact that he wanted to improve his shooting, because he was a point guard, as you mentioned, and his passing was great, but he wanted to improve on his shooting skill, and he did. So
hard work pays off. So I know a couple of weeks back, an institution here in our community closed, right? I know you're retiring. The
right.
sports shop closed on Main Street, but talk to us about the history, because when we walked in, you walked in earlier, I looked at Lou Perez, and he was like, yeah, I used to go there all the time. That's where I bought I think you talked about your first cleats or something when you played football. So the amount of folks that went through that store, but give us the history. Why did the sports shop start, and all the way till today, till last week?
Well, I was a young salesman with Exxon Oil Company here in Miami, and we would put in 60, 65 hours a week. My wife was a flight attendant, and she put in long hours, but then had downtime. So I kept thinking, if I'm working this hard for somebody else, and I looked in Miami Lakes, we lived in Miami Lakes, I said, there's no sports shop. There's no sporting goods store. And the closest one was in Hialeah. So I said, well, the future is, as Miami Lakes grows, they could support a sporting goods store. So we talked to the Graham companies, and they were gracious, and we rented a 1,000 square foot store in Cypress Village. And that was our first beginning. It was a Saturday morning, December 1st of 1973. We opened up Miami Lakes Sporting Goods, Inc. And a couple years later, we doubled the size of it. We took over the store next to us, and so it became 2,000 square feet. Part of that 1,000 square feet is now Beverly Hills Cafe. Part of their store was ours. But wow. So that was the beginning, and I stayed with Exxon for an additional 5 years until my wife finally said, "Well, we need to either sell the store, or you need to come into the store because we're getting that big." So I resigned from Exxon, came into the store full time, and then I took over the team part of the business, where I would go out to high schools and make sales presentations on uniforms and equipment. And my wife handled the retail, and then we added embroidery and other heat press numbering and lettering to the business. And we left that location in the mid-'80s and went to Main Street and opened up a small store across from Snow's Jewelry, and it was called Sportique. It was more of a tennis complex. Then we closed that and the Miami Lakes Sporting Goods location and moved to the movie theater area in a gigantic 4,000 square foot store. Wow. And that was about 1984. So we kind of progressed as the business increased. We kind of increased our need for a bigger store, and that's where we ended up with the bigger location on Main Street.
So since 1984 till now, that's where you were at?
Well, 1984 is when we landed on Main Street.
Okay.
And then in 1995, I think the Graham companies had an opportunity to get the Gap and the Structure, Victoria's Secrets. So it was a major retail improvement to the area. So we volunteered to move down the block into the middle of where the old Hallmark store was. And we gave up our location.
Wait, there was a Hallmark store on Main Street? I didn't even.
Yes, we took that over. It was in the middle of the block. It's where the My Gym is now. Okay. So we took that. We went from 4,000 square feet down to about 3,000. So we downsized a little bit, and it all worked out. So that's kind of the progression of what. And then about 4 years ago, we moved to a smaller location where we are today, or were until last week.
So how does that entire culmination? How does that feel? Because now you're retired for real, right?
Right.
I think
out of retail, we still work with the Optimists on uniforms and equipment, but the day-to-day retail, we're out of that. So
got it. No, that's fascinating progression. So. Well, you just mentioned the Optimist. So one of the questions that I had, I see our town since incorporation, we've made, my personal opinion, 3 generational mistakes, right? That have impacted generations. Not annexing land west of us, right?
Right.
Now we know today what we're facing, right, with these bridge issues and stuff like that. If we would have annexed it would have been a different story. I think everybody would have voted today in favor of it. It would have been a no-brainer, right? The other one was when the state legislature back in 2005 brought $8 million to buy Madden's Hammock, the entire parcel. The town had to put in like $200,000, $300,000 extra. They didn't do it. Deal fell through. Now, obviously, we can't afford it, even if we wanted to buy it, because it's that much more expensive. The third one that I believe it was a generational mistake was back in, I think it was 2003, when we had an opportunity to redevelop the Optimus Park. Fast forward 19 years when we're still talking about it, and it looks like it's finally going to go on the ballot in November. So I think we get another shot at it, but it's obviously that much more expensive. So talk to us about the vibe in 2003, why that all went down, and what's your perspective today?
Well, back in 2003, we had the same vision as to improving the efficiency of the park. The park is not efficient and has never really been efficient, but it was a combination of the county gave us 4 fields, and the Optimus Club made improvements where we could through lighting and through irrigation and sprinklers. So and a clubhouse. So we built all of that and the infrastructure, but still we had the same locations of the fields, which were far apart, far from the bathrooms, far from the concession. So the plan back in 2003 was much like it is today as far as building a more efficient plan for the park, for the kids, the parents, and the townspeople that may want to use the facility. I really am not sure in 2003 why it failed on the vote, but we don't expect it to fail this time. We expect to get more support from our own club to get out and educate the townspeople about the need to be more efficient and to provide better facilities for the young people that use the park. So, we think it has a good chance of passing, and that's what we're working towards.
Listen, Milton Friedman, who's one of the top economists ever, I mean, he always talked about the impact that local parks had on the neighborhood, right? The positive impact of having good neighborhood parks on our local communities. Lou, what do you guys got? Ariera, Vertigo.
My question
they get to so what's interesting about this, we do a couple different things, right? So they get to ask you a couple questions now, and then later on you get to ask me some questions. Okay. So we kind of flip the script like that.
Got it. So my question is, what are some of your favorite clients that you've had from the past that really stand out to you? Maybe a school in particular, or some individuals in particular. Your story's great, told in summarized form, but I want to know like some of the great clients that you've had and why they were such great clients.
Well, if I could just add to that, because I've coached so many young athletes, student athletes, and more so than the clients. So I will give you a couple. It's the reward that I got from watching these kids do well in the Optimus as young kids, and then go to high school, do well, and even if they didn't do sports after high school, they became very successful in their business, whatever their business was. If it was a top salesman or a doctor or an attorney, that was very rewarding to me. But going back to a couple of stories and a couple of favorite customers, Don Shula, when the era of the undefeated Dolphins, he was so popular and famous in Miami Lakes that when he would come to our store, he would stay in his car and send Michael or David, his sons, who became famous in their own right, into the store. And one day they came in and said, my dad wants to buy a football, but he doesn't know which football to buy. And I'm saying, I'm not even sure I even at that time recognized David or Michael. And I said, well, who's your dad? He said, well, Don Shula. And I said, well, wait a minute. He knows football. He said, yeah, but he doesn't know if I should use a TDY, a TDJ, a youth type football. I kind of missed it myself. And I said, okay, well, here's the ball that you need to use. And they go out to the car, and he comes back. He said, "That ball looks too small." And I said, "Well, I know, but that your son is this age, and this is the ball they use." So, in a way, I was having to educate the top football coach and the Dolphins over a football, and that was kind of funny. Another quick story on Mr. Shula is that his wife Dorothy had bought the whole family, and they were great customers because all their kids played sports, and they all played Optimus sports. But Dorothy would come in and buy for Christmas everybody in the family warm-ups and whatever. So she bought Don one, and he was not the tallest person in the world, and he was kind of muscular. And so he came into the store for the first time ever, and he said, "I need to get my pants hemmed off the warm-up set that his wife had bought him." So my wife is down on her hands and knees hemming his pants, and he said something like, "Are you sure you're hemming that right?" And she said, "I'll do the hemming, you do the coaching." And he never said another word. And she told me that story later, and I said, "You got to be kidding me! I hope you didn't say that." She said, "Oh yeah, because he's kind of intense," and so that was just a little Don Shula story. But other stories like Samari Roll's dad that I had already mentioned. Some people, like Gary Cray that won a national baseball title over at Hialeah Miami Lakes. He would take a lawn chair and sit out in the outfield in the Optimus Club, and I would always go to him. I said, "Gary, why don't you sit closer? We can provide you." "No, I don't want to be around any parent. I want to sit out here and enjoy the game, watch my son play, get up and leave before everybody runs over to see me." And so it was kind of funny how certain coaches that you would think would want to be really involved in their kids were kind of standoffish and just wanted to see the beauty of the game. So that was a kind of a customer story and another coach's story.
That's some good stuff there. I think we got a good preview story there. Yeah, that we can use. You guys got anything else for Jim? Thank you. So Jim, we flipped the script. You got any questions of me? We always allow our guests to ask any questions. Anything you got?
Well, no. I it's not more of a question. It's more of a thank you, not only to you as the mayor, but you've always supported the Optimus Club. You're the best example because you played in the program. You see the good and the bad and what we can do to improve. So it's nice to have our leadership in our town that has the vision that you do for the park improvement. So really, it's a thank you to you and all that you're doing to move the projects forward for the betterment of the whole community, really. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things that the human capital involved, right? That the amount of volunteers that give back, not only you 50 years, but everybody else that's giving time. Imagine if we had to quantify 50 years worth of time that like Jack McCall, everybody else gave. Millions and tens of millions of dollars.
Right.
So I think the least that we can do, not only as a thank you to the people that have given so much to see that park move forward, but also to the kids, not only now, but in the future, is to do the right thing, is right. to make sure that we have Class A amenities, that our parks are the best. And when people come into Miami Lakes, they're like, you know what? Miami Lakes is unbelievable. Main Street's back. The park is back. Everything, and that's where hopefully within the next 2 years that I leave office, that I'm termed out, we can leave this town a lot better off than we received it. So, thank you really for doing everything that you do. So Jim, any final inspiring, motivational words that you have for the youth? Kind of tell them, hey, you got to get involved, because a lot of times, one of the things that a pet peeve of mine is it's easy for people in society to kind of point the finger on certain things. Hey, look, there's a tree limb fell on the street and they reported it. I'm like, oh, go pick it up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
yeah.
what you did with the Optimist.
Right.
Hey, man, we need better coaches. We need better. I'm going to go do it myself. And I think that type of, motivational words, what do you have for that future generation?
Well, I'm hoping that the kids get involved and get off the couch and get away from some of the electronics and kind of proportion their activities in their day. And we offer that at the Optimus Club for kids that want to get out and play sports or just be active. And I would say on the mindset for the kids is you don't have to become a superstar to enjoy an activity, a sport. And there's more than one sport, so you can have fun. Approach it from the fact that look at it to improve your skill and to have fun. And if you just do those two things, that's all you really need to do to get a lot out of it. Have fun, improve your skill. You don't have to win every game, and you don't have to be the champion to get a huge benefit from sports activities. I would also like to thank, though, all the Optimus people that do volunteer. You touched on it, and there's the parents and parents that coach and parents that just support us, and the Optimus members themselves that give up. Everybody kind of thinks that the Optimus members are paid. They're not paid. Actually, we pay dues to belong to the Optimus Club. We're strictly volunteers. It's just an amazing group of people that want to help kids. Our slogan is Friend of Youth. And when I first joined them, I couldn't understand that slogan. I said, why is it that way? And it didn't take me long to understand that that's all it's about, is helping the kids. And that's the mission of the Optimus Club. The only other thing I wanted to mention, that the success of the sports shop is really not even half of mine. It's my wife's, because she worked it day in and day out in the retail part, which is the hardest part. I had the fun part where I could go out, meet coaches, do deals outside of the store, but the retail environment is the brutal battleground, if you will, in business. And my wife, did that for nearly 50 years. So I have to give her all the congratulations. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Smart man. How many years have you all been married?
52.
52 years. So not only a great example to our community and volunteering, but also, setting that bar high. 52 years, yeah. I got a ways to go. I'm at 14 now. 14, well, yeah.
You'll get there. You've got a great wife, too.
I appreciate it. So there you have it. Jim Hamilton, legend here in our community. And make sure you tune into that interview next week on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.